Welcome to the Organizational Maneuverability Radio Show, Defying Gravity so your team can soar at altitude, with host Marshall Goldsmith, Executive Coach Randy Swaim. Well, hello. For those that are listening, Marshall Goldsmith, Certified Executive Coach Randy Swaim, with my career in aviation and all of that, as the host of our podcast, Organizational Maneuverability Podcast today. And most people kind of know who I am. But I will say this, that just very quickly, I am very honored to have on the show today my guest, Ashley Thorsen. And very honored to have her on today with some of the aspects that are aligned with this. And so I'll tell you what, Ashley, if you will, go ahead and just share an introduction of you and maybe a little bit of your journey and kind of your expertise and all that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Randy. Again, Ashley Thorsen. I'm sitting here in Grand Rapids, Michigan at the Gerald R. Ford International Airport currently as the operations manager. I am so in love with my job, so I'm very happy to be here to show you and talk to you about why I love what I do. But I come from the Tidewater, Virginia Beach, Virginia area originally, grew up there, and then moved myself around. In order to be in the airport industry, sometimes you got to move out to move up. Moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is what I call home. That's where my friends and my family and all my people are back. So I'm back down in the South in Raleigh, but that's where I started my journey originally, was in Raleigh as a military contractor. And that took me here to aviation. Don't know how we got there, but it was a lot of failures that I had to endure and go through. And I don't consider them failures. I consider them jumping off points to just get me to my next greatness. But it got me here from Raleigh-Durham International Airport as an operations officer to South Bend, Indiana, working at that international airport as the operations manager. So 2 steps, but I had to move to do it, took my family with me, and then was brought here to Grand Rapids. And I love Michigan, and I love the Lions. The Lions are doing really well, so I'm really happy to be here with them, supporting football in this place. But yeah, so
Cool.
Yeah, excited to talk about
it. And I'll tell you, you have my compliments on what you said about the misperception of failures. You know, you're right. A lot of times it's not a failure; it's a real developing point. It's a point of growth, and so you have my compliments on that. That is a huge awareness on that. So just with you have my compliments on your journey and what you do, and we're both involved in aviation for sure, and so just honored to have that. So actually, it's really great to have you on the show today. And if you can, let me just get you to take a minute too, and kind of highlight and start to kind of bring together a little bit of the insight or the theme or the insights maybe from your journey that you'd like to bring to leading teams in a challenging environment. And I know with being an operations manager, guess what? Leadership is a part of what you do.
Yeah. Well, I will start off by saying, and it's not aviation, but I am a huge sports junkie. So my whole life was based around being on a team. I played softball growing up since I was 7 years old, played in college, and then still played after that. But it was that team aspect that always I wanted to lead the team. I wanted to be the captain. I wanted to make sure people were achieving their greatness within whatever it was, whether they were up to bat or they were in the field. I was trying to be that person there that had that vocal voice. It's a sad part of my story. I lost my mom when I was 18. I was 2 weeks into college. And, I, at that point, could have turned around and said, no, I'm not going to continue on with school. But I felt like as a leader in my life, like I needed to get to the next thing. And that was with my softball team in college. So jumping off to essentially where I am now, I really feel like servant leadership has taken a big part in my life as a manager and as a person now that's doing cool things in the industry, taking care of my people. I took care of my team growing up. I took care of people who had lost their parents throughout my college journey and past. And now it's about my people that I work with and work under me. So being a servant leadership, letting people put their ideas first and giving that ability and that platform to be an active listener, because a lot of times they have a lot better ideas than I do. So it's nice to just be quiet and let them have the floor and have that ownership and that integrity behind whatever it is we're working on. So that's
And
my biggest platform is servant leadership.
and that is cool. You got a great point in that. In fact, I will tell you that at 1:30 today, I'm going to be on the podcast Business News Network radio show, and that's very aligned with kind of what I'm bringing to that one. But let me ask you this: when you think about your servant leadership and the growth in that, and particularly in working with your team, what do you see as perhaps in your environment? By the way, you don't have to badmouth anybody or anything like that, but just as you look at that, what do you see as the biggest struggle? Because you're right that that servant leadership aspect is so key in today's world. And when you talk about organizational maneuverability, it is a central part of that. It's a central importance to that. And so within perhaps your um, environment. Do you have a couple of things that stand out as sometimes the things that try to stand in the way and get in the way of that or prevent that?
Absolutely. So I was in one of
Go
my
figure. That's normal in life today, isn't it? Yeah, go ahead.
It is always changing. Something's different. But when I
Yep.
was at one of my airports, I actually was put on my desk the book Emotional Intelligence, and I didn't know what it meant. I actually took offense to it when it was put on my desk because I was like, I feel like I'm very smart. I feel like I know what's going on. But as I read the book, I was like totally blown away. I was not really emotionally intelligent in some of the situations I put myself in. So
Hmm.
my role here is to make sure that my team feels comfortable and I set them up for success, not for failure. So making sure that they're attending meetings with me. We have professional development plans. We actually put them at conferences and things that's going to propel them because I need someone to take my job because I'm ready to take somebody else's job. So having that wherewithal with in developing people has been one of my goals. Here we call them rocks. We do the EOS model, the entrepreneurial operating systems, I think it's called.
Yeah.
But my goals are to get my team to the next spot to take my job. So that's done through one-on-ones, quarterly meetings, taking them off site, and again, just listening to what it is that they want to do for their professional development.
And it's interesting with what you said there because that's true. It's like if you're just going to kind of be controlling and just kind of be in this position for the next 30 years, you're not helping yourself, you're not helping your legacy, you're not helping the company. And so you have my compliments on that. In fact, I will, if you don't mind, I'll just share one little image from my background that's kind of aligned with what you're saying. Back when I was um, the Learjet pilot flying for the strategic air defense contractor that I was. Uh, I flew out of a Griffiths Air Force Base over in Rome, New York, and and it's interesting that the training the manager at the time, don't know whether he had personal struggles or whatever, but he was just not getting the job done. And everything he was doing was very contradictory to everything you just talked about, which is correct on your side. So yeah, my compliments. But what's interesting is the director of operations for the entire operation, who was down at the headquarters of the company, called me at home one day and was asking me about my perception of, and by the way, I was not a leader at the time necessarily. I mean, I had a lot of leadership skills developed, but when and it was interesting, he was just asking me about because he apparently several of the other people had called headquarters and were frustrated and all this sort of stuff. And he knew something was going on at the detachment, and he called me and he was asking me kind of what my perception of that was, and I just kind of shared a little bit with him, nothing crazy. But after about 15 or 18 minutes, he said, well, Randy, what do you think is necessary down there? And I pointed out two things, and he said, wow. And the two things that I pointed out were very aligned with what you're talking about. And what's amazing is right after I mentioned those two things, he said, wow. And then he was dead quiet for about 20 seconds. And then he said this, he said, Randy, I said, yeah. He said, would you go down there and do that? I went, are you asking me what I think you're asking me? He said, yes, I am. And I said, does he know about it? And he said, no, yet, not yet. I'll call him next. And I went, well, I'll tell you what, you call him, you do what you need to do. And then if you want to call me, and yeah, I'll do it. And guess what? He called me back about 15 minutes later and he said, "Would you go down there and do that?" I said, "Yep." And they promoted me to the site manager. And I went down there because of the fact that I was mindfully thinking of some of the things that you were just mentioning. And so that is so key that a lot of people sometimes don't understand. If people come up just with a mindset of being a manager, it's just like, I'll tell you what to do, you do it. That doesn't always get the job done. So I think you're right on that. No two ways about it. And
Yeah, if I can share even a story that we just had recently here at the airport,
you
we
bet.
had an irregular operation here at a small hub airport. It's not something that you have a lot, but we're located between Detroit and Chicago. So with that said, we're a hub for people to come when they can't get people into those big airports.
Yeah.
Well, August the 6th, we had two flights come in, one from Tokyo, an A350, and then we had a Rome flight, A330. So you're talking, and again, a small hub airport, we've got over 600 passengers who have not been pre-cleared by a CBP to come into our airport. So
Yeah.
we have a plan in place, but as you know, a plan doesn't always go to plan. So our team, under our leadership of our CEO and our COO, who were here with me until 2:33 a.m. that night. They landed
Wow.
here at 3 o'clock that day. So we were in a 12-hour IROP. It was about leading from the back for them. They let me take full autonomy of the entire operation, run it from both sides. My team was incredible, but having their support on the back end of it and knowing that they were willing to get their hands dirty, just like we were, with all of the passengers and all of the problems that were popping up. It was one of the most successful operations in CBP's eyes in this area for something like that. So I'm really big about, like you just said, getting in there and doing what's requested, and then going above and beyond so that people see that, and then that motivates them to do it as well.
And they want to be a part of what you're doing, and
Yeah.
it is. And just like you said, there was one time, totally unrelated. I'd been the manager for about 4 months or so at that point, and I could tell one day that the that the pilots and all that were sitting around talking about one little insight. And I could hear what they're doing. Well, guess what? I didn't interject in the conversation because I
Mm.
could tell where they were going. And it was interesting because they said, "You know what? Let's write a couple of thoughts down." And the one of the co-pilots went over and sat down, and he was actually uh, in the Air National Guard. He was a Air Force part-time, you know, aviator there too. But he sat down, and all of a sudden he realized his boss was there. And so he stopped about halfway down and he just looked over at me like this. Then all I did is I smiled and I winked and I nodded my head. And he sat down and they came up with a couple of things and all very aligned with kind of what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people don't fully get today. But you know what? It's something that is very, very important.
Yeah. That trust too, right?
Yeah. You know what? Thank you. You're right. Because it builds trust. And
Mhm.
guess what? Trust makes it worthwhile when you're in a challenging situation, when unexpected factors come on that you would have never predicted or whatever. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, that is true. And that's very aligned with organizational maneuverability and the concept. Well, let me ask you this within your journey and within your time doing what you're doing, what have you seen as perhaps the greatest risks or the greatest uh, uh, blockages that sort of get in the way of really doing that successfully?
Um, Not personally, I don't feel like I do this, but I think it can really block a team is micromanagement. Again, intertwining that trust back into the job function and what's going on. If you hire people to do the job, like let them do the job. And if they're not performing, put them on a PIP, put them on, a disciplinary action form, but trust your team to do it. And when that trust is violated with that micromanagement style, then you start to snowball into something bigger and people don't want to work and creates a culture that's not really fun to be at. So that's the biggest thing that I've seen. And then as a female in the industry, just having my voice suppressed a little bit. Like I have a seat at the table now at this airport, and they give me the autonomy to speak out loud and say, speak with everybody. And that's not always the case for women in
Yeah,
aviation.
understand, and that is a key part of it. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. And when you're talking about servant leadership, like you're implying very correctly so, uh, different people, and this is one challenge that a lot of people have, different people in a given team have different aspects of leadership that is effective with them. And basically just some of the things you've kind of shared and told me, I think you're aware of this, that you know what, when you're connecting with different people in your team, there's ways where you got to kind of provide that servant leadership in a slightly different way
Sure.
with each one. And so it's not just a do it your way and walk away and blame them if it doesn't work or anything like that, kind of thing. There's a lot more, there's a lot more to that. And
Absolutely.
it's something that is very key. And so let me ask you this, within your role, because I think you implied this when we were just before we started, but when you think about going forward, and everything, um, when you talk about the real effectiveness of servant leadership, what do you see as the greatest benefits, perhaps, um, with the team, with you, with the organization? I think you sort of mentioned this, but just to kind of let you kind of share that, because it's very critical, and you were sort of talking a little bit about it, and everything. I think you're dead on target.
I guess for me, it's about the culture, right? I want to create that culture in that space where people enjoy coming to work and they love what they do.
Hmm.
So if I can do that by, like you said, listening individually to each people and having different emotional awareness for each different person and how they want to succeed. What's really kept us on focus is our professional development plans. So giving a flexible and living document for people to
Hmm.
say, okay, I really like to do this, I don't like to do this, and then giving them ownership of it. So I don't have to do it all. Somebody used the phrase delegate to elevate, and you can use that in a good way, in a bad way. I want to give people the opportunity to have their voices heard, but also I don't want to dump stuff on them, and give them that ability to eventually see what it's like to be a leader and a manager in the position.
Hmm. Hmm. And what is the big advantage for that in terms of like an organization and your role and the people and stuff? What's the big advantage to that?
Um, I I think just setting them up for success, and maybe I'm missing the mark on the answer, but I think just make I don't succeed unless my team succeeds, and so I don't get the glory unless they get the glory, and I want to make sure that everybody feels recognized and important in what they do.
And if you think about it, because you're right, but if you think about it, what benefit is that to the company? Because you're actually in a role with a certain team, as you said, an operations manager kind of thing. And if you think about that, how is that the benefit for your organization?
Yeah, if I start at the lowest level, right, with an entry level position and they're happy to be here, and then we create that continuous development with them of the next line of person coming to work happy, then it creates a job well done. We're known in the industry as an airport that thrives, and I'm proud to say that. We do things right. People come to us for questions or for examples. We're intentional about all of our processes and all of the things we design and build here for our community and for our passengers. So that's really cool to be a part of too, to be out in California or in Florida and people are like, oh, the Grand Rapids airport is just killing it with, all of the things that they're doing to be trailblazers or get ahead of the game,
Hmm.
innovative. That's,
Yeah.
that's neat.
And what advantage is that for your organization? I mean, if you think about that, I think you've kind of shared some of that. But how would you describe how your organization currently experiences things may be different because of it, and in possibly in a positive way?
Well, I mean, we've won a ton of awards recently. I just received a really cool scholarship from AAAE, which is the American Association of Airport Executives, for $10,000 to continue my career path in financial management for an airport. My boss
Well,
in this airport lets me do that. So they let me go to do this kind of stuff. Received an award for leadership for Russell R. Hoyt for just because I'm passionate about what I do. Again, I don't know if it's answering the question, but I just know that if I can,
there's no definitively academic answer to it. So, yeah.
yeah, if my passion can show that I care about the customers and the passengers and what I do, and I'm intentional again about everything on the airfield to take care of it and make it right and compliant,
Hmm.
then my supervisor will see that and he will say, I want to be like Ashley and I want to take her position. So then I'm going to do the same things. And he puts his own twist on it. And, the best part about all of this is I get to work here. Like I get to wake up every day and come be a part of
Hmm.
some really cool organization. So for me, always been a positive person. So I think that reflects on some people around here when maybe it's not the most positive day, just being happy, being kind. Oh my gosh.
And you know what? When you get to an organization that clearly people want to be a part of it, and they want to be connected with you in one degree or another, kind of thing. And if you think about an organization where their people have that kind of a mindset as you just described, where they want to come here, they want to be here, uh, that makes a huge difference. And if you think about it, I'll just kind of share this with you that basically from a marketing standpoint for your organization, guess what? That says a lot about how you can come across and how people experience you. And
Mm-hmm.
also, as your people go out and they feel that trust and that joy and that real appreciation of being in that organization, as you just described, guess what? When you go out and connect with people, it's kind of cool when the organization has a lot of people coming in and they want to go to work for you,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And so that's a key part of the culture that you're talking about and stuff. And so that aspect, like you said, of the servant leadership, and also some of the other stuff that you mentioned there, is a key aspect in organizations, and a lot of people don't fully understand that. Now, they know the word, but in terms of how that truly comes across, um, doesn't always make sense to people. They don't know exactly what it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do, but uh, it's a huge aspect, particularly when you're talking about organizational maneuverability and leading your team in a challenging, uh, unpredictable environment.
Yes,
Because
sir.
guess what? If you're trying to control your people in such a way that they think that they're supposed to just shut off their brains and listen to what you have to say, guess what? You're not positioned to be able to gain success when those other factors come on scene. But
That's so true.
if you make them, and if you think about it, I'll just kind of share what you seem to be communicating, and you can either shake your head or nod your head or whatever you want, kind of thing on it. But if you think about it, if people trust the team and trust the organization and want to be a part of it, guess what? They're ready when unique factors come on scene. They're going to communicate. They're going to go out and make it happen and overcome. Why? Because they want to do in here. They want to do what is best for the company and for what's best for all of that. And so it's part of the motivation. It's part of the synergy. It's part of the uh, is really part of developing key success that sometimes people don't fully understand, and it's just a big thing. I know that about 3 months after I was brought in with that little thing that I've shared about. Uh, about 3 months after I was took that position as the site manager, I was blown away when a document was shared with me that was made public by the national company, and one of the statements they had in there is said, Randy took a problem site and turned it into the showcase of the company in minimum time.
There you
And I
go.
went, whoa. But that's a good description, a good picture of what can happen when you're doing what you're doing, and with the mindset that you have. And so, making it something where people want to come work for you, people want to become you.
Yeah, if
And
you can't pay them all, right, you can't give them all money all the time. So you got to
that's
find
true.
other ways and be creative on
That's
how to
true.
inspire people.
You know what? And that's a huge aspect of it. No two ways about it. And so I know it's about 25 minutes here. We got about 5 minutes left, but let me just kind of share with you, because what you brought, with what you're talking about and your application of the servant leadership and things of that nature, I think that is key to realize when you're talking about an unpredictable or rapidly changing environment. But let me ask you this: when you think of people, when people look at you and they realize how effective you are in here, when you look 10 or 15 years down the road, what do you hope to achieve in the organization for
Good
for your
question.
for your role? Yeah.
I obviously hope to grow. Like, I want to be here for a while and I want to make positive impacts and changes. I
Hmm.
want the administration to continue to trust me to make good decisions for the airport. I want my team to continue to trust me that I'm leading us in the right direction.
Hmm.
I want people to remember me as a present leader. So when they're with me, I am presently focused on whatever it is that they're discussing or talking about. Too many times I've had people say they're there, but you can see them spacing off or they're not listening, and it doesn't leave a good impact. And I want to see my team take my job. I want to see
Yeah.
somebody internally come here and just blow me out of the water because they're so ready and prepared for the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. When you, let me ask you this, just with the aspect that you're talking about, because this is a very good insight, just very quickly, with when you have somebody that just goes, and you can tell is not connecting in with that right now, how do you, by applying that, how do you connect with them? What do you do if you see somebody that goes, because that's a good statement, that's a good question to ask. And what do you do to get them to, what do you have to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not above accountability. So if we're in a situation to where, it's a serious conversation and we need to hold someone accountable of not paying attention, then no problem. I'm calling them out, obviously individually, not in front of people, but um, reaching into why it is that they're yawning or why it is that they're not. Is there something going on outside of work? It's not all about the job. There's definitely personal things that affect people and why they're not there. Um, but then I take that lesson and I learn it and that emotional intelligence and try to apply it to the next conversation that we have.
And
Remembering.
yeah, and I'll tell you, what you said there is a good start to it, no two ways about it. Because guess what, when you're trying to get a sense for what they're dealing with, if you, and this is one of the things, and this is a coaching approach that I bring, but it's one thing that I tell leaders, is if you ask the right questions, and I don't mean just the superficial academic questions, but the right questions, as you said correctly, where you're trying to kind of sort out what they're dealing with, kind of where they are, and things of that nature, instead of just dictating to them, if you get a sense in connecting in with them on that, they can get past it quicker. And what's the advantage to you when you do it that way? Because you said it right, where you're trying to connect with them to get a sense of what it is that's driving them and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
what
they see
what's
your
the advantage to
empathy.
you?
They see that you're empathetic leader. They see that you want them to be productive. They're more motivated. They're inspired. Um, the whole gamut of feelings. I think if you could just change the conversation so it's not pointed and aggressive and it's more listening and how's it going? What's
there
happening?
there you go. And they're feeling that you're coming alongside and joining them and working together, moving
Mhm.
forward together. And that's a part of that leadership aspect that a lot of people don't understand. So you have my compliments on that. If you don't mind me saying, Ashley, it's been. I know we're coming up on 30 minutes, and you probably got other things to do today, but we got I appreciate you sharing what you did. It's very aligned with what we're talking about and what I talk about with organizational maneuverability. You have my compliments on kind of your thoughts and what you have to do there and what you're trying to do. And particularly, you certainly have my compliments. The fact that we both have aviation backgrounds and aviation experiences and stuff like that. And but let me just say this: just as we end up, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. But let me just kind of let you take 1 minute and just anything you want to say to close out. Anything you want to communicate to close out to people that are listening.
I think for me, it's about mentorship. So I didn't have it as much as I would have loved. And I hope I can be that light for somebody below me, male, female, or even beside me as a coworker, that just if they have a question or they need a honest person to answer, or again hold them accountable, that I'm that person. And I hope somewhere through my journey that I have inspired, or I've broken a glass ceiling, or I've put down a barrier for somebody, whether it's promoting or having effective presentation skills or negotiating, whatever it may be. I would love to be remembered for leaving a mark on somebody in a positive way, just some type of light. So as a leader, again, taking that and just trying to be as kind to people as possible.
Cool. Well, I tell you what, you totally have my compliments there, Ashley. It's been an honor to meet you and to kind of work with you here for 30 minutes here and stuff. And I appreciate you bringing what you did. You have my compliments on all that you're doing.
Thank you,
And
Randy.
so, generally, is there any way that if anybody who's listening would like to contact you or anything, do you have anything that you would recommend for them to be able to do that, perhaps,
Sure,
just in
yeah.
case?
Yeah, you're welcome to share my email address here at work. It's athorsen@grr.org. Or I have LinkedIn. That's my only other real social platform, but LinkedIn is where I share all the things I love about Grand Rapids and what I do here. So please feel free to reach out there.
Sounds good. Well, I'll tell you what, Ashley, it's been an honor to have you here. Been a pleasure. I'll let you get on to other things that you have to do today. And who knows, maybe we'll be on a podcast again together sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Have a great
Okay.
day.
You have a great day and have a wonderful Christmas holiday. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.